This video supported in part by...
Playing VR, I tend to sweat. It gives me an edge. So King of Nerds happens to give me an edge too. Let King of Nerds give you the edge. Bye, King of Nerds.
Ever since the reveal of the new My Arcade Atari collaborative hardware project, first shown at CES just a couple of weeks ago, commenters on videos here on GenXGrownUp covering these products have been very much split. There's about half of the commenters who are interested and excited to see what is coming out new, and another half that seem to be adamantly opposed to the existence of these products. And in this video in particular, I'm going to be talking about this Atari 50th anniversary Pocket Player, though there were several other things announced. I want to pick one thing to focus on. And by the end of this video, we will have determined exactly why this thing exists and who, in fact, it is for. Hey there, welcome back to GenXGrownUp. I am John, I am a GenXGrownUp. Thank you so much for the click. Let's start with what we know so far about this 50th anniversary Pocket Player. Now I have the Pac-Man Pocket Player here. From the photos, it looks like what we're gonna get with this Atari unit is exactly this. The same form factor, the same buttons in the same location, just a different art design on the mold, and of course, different contents inside of it. We know that this Pocket Player is going to be strictly Atari 2600 games. We know it's going to be between 80 and 100 games, depending on which photo you trust and, which person you asked you believe, but quite a few. And also, we know that based on previous sales, My Arcade has kind of said that this is going to be standard pricing, so we can expect the Atari 50th to go for about $30 to $35. Now, on the surface level, that seems like a pretty good return. About 30 bucks for 300 games, that's a heck of a bargain. And in a vacuum, that would be fantastic. And 10 years ago, that would be fantastic. But we don't live in a vacuum, and we're not living 10 years ago. A lot has happened in the last 10 years in the realm of retro gaming, particularly Atari and Atari 2600 games. So as we go through this video, there are three main kind of like camps of dissent that I want to address. And I'm not really looking to debunk, but really to explain why this product exists and why I think it is necessary in the market today, and why I'm looking forward to getting my hands on one to review one for you. The first key point I want to discuss is the argument that there are, or at least have been, better options to do this exact same thing, and probably maybe have done it better. Now, certainly back in 2019, we had the retro handheld by Blaze. Now, that didn't have an SD card, but man, was it beautiful. It had that 2600 design, it had the wood grain, the D-pad even had that little ring like a CX40. Beautiful unit. Now, it was from the UK, and so it had PAL ROMs, so there was a bit of like a speed differential if you come from the US, but it worked great, and I enjoyed that product. I even reviewed it here. But it wasn't even the first or best. Back in 2017, we had the Atari Flashback Portable, which absolutely did have an SD card, absolutely did have, I think it had 60 or 70 games packed in, but it was kind of a vanilla design, but it super powerful, and it had all the functionality you would want from an emulation toy for the 2600, including the ability to add your own additional games. In fact, just a couple of years ago, there was an updated version of that Flashback Portable that was distributed through Dollar General of all places. It was only 20 bucks. It had the SD card, plus it had more functions like rewind and save states and stuff like that. If you picked up one of those, which I was able to, that's kind of right now the go-to de facto handheld device for emulating Atari 2600 on a budget, available via retail, not building your own thing. Now, the crux of that is there's nothing currently in retail to do what this Pocket Player from My Arcade is supposed to do. My Arcade is a retail business. They don't live on what somebody else made in the past that you can buy on eBay or import from somewhere or find used. It doesn't matter that there were other things in the past that were available, because right now I can't just walk into a store and pick up a handheld Atari 2600 emulator. I can't. This is going to fill that void. So even though there have been better options, it makes sense to have a new product in the market that does what older ones have done, even though it's a fraction of them, because otherwise nothing's available, and that's money left on the table. The second of the three key points that I want to address is the one that I'm very empathetic to, and that is, this is a handheld they want me to give you 30 bucks for that's going to play games that I can go download off the internet and play for free. First of all, these games are not freely offered by Atari on the internet. I know they are freely available by Atari on the internet, and yes, I do have ROMs that I have downloaded off of the internet. And absolutely, if you know how to do that, you can. And I'm not saying there aren't better options than buying a pocket player for hobbyists and enthusiasts of Atari who understand how to work around and get that done. However, downloading ROMs and running emulation, especially handheld, like on your phone or something else, that's not common knowledge throughout the entire populace. Now, it's quite likely that people who watch GenXGrownUp and who see me here on the internet, you are already an enthusiast. You already know about retro games. You already know about emulation. And so for those people, this is again going to be, oh, it's just, I already have these games. Why am I buying them again? And I get that. But again, you have to go back to the fact that emulation is it's not a plug and play. It's not a point and click kind of thing. It takes some file manipulation, takes some configuration, and that's not common. So having a product in the market, again, for people to play something that you and I know that we can already play on our computers for free, doesn't mean it's universally available or accessible to the broad market. So a product like this is not negated by the fact the ROMs are out there. In many ways, it's bolstered by the fact because you might have heard it's out there but don't know how to do it, and this will get you over the hump, the barrier of entry. If you go and just spend $30, it's in your hand and you can play it. The third and final sort of, I'll say camp or type of dissenters, they will say, look, this is the same stuff they released over and over and over. And you're right. You're absolutely right. We just saw it in the Atari 50th anniversary celebration. We've seen it in every flashback portable, every flashback, everything that has Atari ROMs on it. Anywhere, every RetroPie you ever bought, it's got a smattering of Atari 2600 games in it. And Atari still owns those and can still monetize them because they do still own the rights to those. But what we're finding is it's not an oversaturated market. Things seem to come and go in this market. We just talked about the flashbacks that came and went, and now you can't find them unless you can dig them up on eBay. There is not a product that is a handheld toy that I can walk in the store right now and buy and play 2600 games. So even though it's been released again and again, it keeps selling again and again, or they would not be released again and again. In fact, if you're an Atari fan, even though you have bought them 100 times, there's something attractive about seeing that this thing you love is still popular. And in reality, these Atari 2600 ROMs in any kind of form factor, any kind of playability at all, they're going to continue to be viable at retail for another 30 or 40 years, I would expect, for as long as us Generation Xers are still kicking, as long as the people who remember the 2600 fondly, who played with it as a kid, are still alive, and we still have a couple of dollars in our pocket, there's still going to be a market for people to be able to walk into a store and purchase a toy that plays those old games. We could come back and look at this video probably in 10 years, and somebody's going to release a new version of something that plays these Atari ROMs, and the same questions are going to be up. Remember back in 2023 when My Arcade put out the definitive edition? Doesn't matter, because if it's not still available, it's a new product, and it's something that's not accessible today. So all of these data points then kind of taken into consideration, things, yes, we know that there have been better options. We know that you could go download the ROMs for free off the internet, and we know that they've released these things before in some form or fashion, but this is still coming out. It's still going to be sold. It's still going to be popular. I'm still looking forward to it. Who is it really for then? Who does My Arcade think is going to buy this? And you might be surprised when you think about, expand your mind, who all is out there that aren't hardcore Atari fanatics that watch YouTube videos about this upcoming toy. The majority of the population has no idea this is coming sometime in 2023 because they're not paying attention. They're going to have their finger on the pulse of what's happening with Atari, right? They're going to walk into their CVS or their Target and go, hey, look, an Atari handheld, and they'll snatch it, right? So in summary, I guess I would say that this little pocket player might not actually be targeted at you and I. It's not the super fan. It's not the super geek. It's the average run-of-the-mill consumer who far outnumber you and I, who are going to be walking into stores or browsing online and seeing that here's a thing available today that I can exchange some money for and have these Atari games in my hand. And those sales are made to average consumers who don't know or care about what else is available in the market. They know that this will deliver on a certain promise and they can pick it up at the store. All of that being said, I will say that in many cases, I agree with the dissenters that there are things that have been done before that are better. However, I don't agree that there's no point to this. And I, despite all of this, am still excited to get this little 50th anniversary Atari 2600 Pocket Player in my hands here at GenXGrownUp and review it for you. That and many of the other items from CES, some exciting stuff, even non-Atari stuff look pretty exciting. I'm going to throw some links over my shoulders here and here of other stuff at CES that I've been covering that you can check out. I certainly hope you found something to enjoy, though, in this video, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.